Hey, if these titles hit close to home, you're in the right place. Every episode is a safe space to talk about the hard stuff we all carry. Liking and subscribing honestly motivates us to keep going and create more for you. Drop a comment with where you're listening from. I read and answer every one. You're not alone here. Stick around and let's go deeper together. Today, we'll dissect why so many of us reflexively shoulder blame even when it's not warranted. Why is this self-blame so persistent for some people?
Thanks for having me. It stems from deeply ingrained psychological patterns, often rooted in childhood or past relationships. The nervous system learns to treat self-blame as a way to control uncertainty or chaos, even when events are clearly outside our influence.
So, in a sense, it's less about humility and more about our brains trying to create order in unpredictable situations?
Exactly. When things go wrong, blaming ourselves can feel like regaining a sense of agency, even if it's just an illusion. But as we'll explore, this comes at a steep emotional cost.
Let's start with something familiar, the instant apology. Why do some people apologize for trivial things, like a stranger's flight delay, or even when someone else bumps into them?
This is more than just politeness. Psychologists call it preemptive self-flagellation. It's a reflexive attempt to control outcomes by taking responsibility for all possible mishaps, as if being accountable will somehow prevent further chaos.
Is this behavior culturally reinforced, or does it run deeper, perhaps neurologically?
While culture plays a role, studies suggest our nervous system is wired to over-apologize when we've experienced unpredictable environments. For example, survivors of chaotic households often apologize for everything as a survival strategy.
Building on that, let's talk about what happens when plans change. Why do some people instantly analyze every past interaction for missteps when friends cancel?
This is hypervigilant attribution. The brain tries to solve uncertainty by constructing elaborate narratives like replaying last week's joke or conversation, rather than accepting that most things aren't personal.
It sounds exhausting. Is there evidence that this kind of rumination actually helps us avoid future mistakes, or does it just add to our stress?
Great question. Research shows that while brief reflection can aid learning, excessive rumination leads to anxiety and lower self-esteem. Most friends move on quickly, but the hypervigilant mind can stay stuck for days.
I'd like to address a deeper layer, what you call the trauma tax. How does past hurt transform into constantly apologizing for our needs or emotions?
When someone grows up in environments where love is conditional, they internalize the belief that their needs are a burden. Every request, emotion, or even occupying space feels like a transgression, demanding an apology.
So, the flinch when someone compliments you, or the instinct to shrink, is really the echo of old wounds?
Absolutely. It's not humility, it's learned worthlessness. But recognizing this pattern is the first step toward healing and reclaiming your right to exist unapologetically.
Another fascinating concept is reverse narcissism. Can you unpack what it means to constantly assume you're the central villain in others' narratives?
Sure. Unlike classic narcissism, this is an inverted form where you believe everyone's focused on your flaws. In reality, most people are preoccupied with their own lives. It's a cognitive distortiona, kind of egocentrism flipped inside out.
That's intriguing. So while it seems like hyper self-awareness, it's really just another self-centered illusion?
Exactly. It's a misapplied spotlight effect. Studies show people vastly overestimate how much others notice their mistakes, when in fact, attention is fleeting for all but the most dramatic errors.
Let's turn to over-responsibility. Why do some of us feel accountable for fixing everyone else's problems, coworkers, siblings, even strangers?
That's emotional grandiosity. The belief that you alone must prevent suffering. It masquerades as empathy, but it's actually a way to feel necessary or in control. This burdens you with stress and deprives others of agency.
Can you share an analogy to illustrate this point?
Imagine trying to hold up an entire building with your bare hands. It's unsustainable. The world existed long before you and will continue after. Your job is to carry only your share.
Moving forward, what's the core lie that keeps us trapped in self-blame?
It's the belief that if you just try harder, need less, or achieve perfection, you'll finally earn acceptance. But this is a myth implanted by past abuse or neglect, not a reflection of reality.
So healthy relationships don't require us to be flawless or to constantly self-correct?
Precisely. Real love and respect are unconditional. Your guilt acts like a broken alarm, system alerting you to dangers that aren't actually present anymore.
Given that, how can listeners begin to distinguish legitimate remorse from unearned guilt?
A practical strategy is to pause and ask, would I expect this level of guilt from someone I love in the same scenario? Often, the answer is no. This reframes guilt as a faulty signal, not a reliable guide.
That's a powerful tool. Can you share any supporting research?
Absolutely. A 2021 study in the Journal of Behavioral Therapy found that perspective-taking exercises reduced chronic guilt by 38% over 8 weeks, demonstrating the value of self-compassion techniques.
Let's talk action steps. What does it look like in practice to adopt blamelessness without sliding into irresponsibility?
It means acknowledging your mistakes when warranted, but refusing to claim blame for things beyond your control. For example, if a friend is upset, you can empathize without assuming you're the cause.
That sounds liberating, almost radical. How can someone build this habit?
Start with small experiments. Pause before apologizing, check your assumptions, and remind yourself, I am not responsible for everything. Over time, this rewires your emotional reflexes and fosters resilience.
As we wrap up, what's your final advice for listeners ready to stop carrying blame that isn't theirs?
Remember, when that inner critic whispers, "You should have known better," respond with, "I did the best I could with the tools I had." Watch how much lighter your life feels when you step back from unearned guilt and embrace your inherent worth.
That's truly inspiring. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for sharing these insights and actionable steps. For everyone listening, may today mark the beginning of your journey toward blamelessness and self-kindness.
Thank you for having me. Remember, your value isn't measured by how much blame you absorb, but by the compassion you show yourself and others. Until next time, stay gentle with yourself.